Hey everybody, and welcome to FYB's live Wimbledon coverage. Will Hamilton alongside Adam Szymanski.
Hey, I got my name right this time.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the plate down there.
I'm not Ian Westerman, believe it or not.
But you got to save that one because the Sunday of the final will have Ian back, and we don't want him being Adam Szymanski.
It's true.
So we'll have to double check that. But I think we're good. I think we're good for now. Before we get into today's matches, I want to thank Championship Tennis Tours for sponsoring this event. There's a hyperlink to their website right below this video player. And if you're going to some tournaments this summer, please use them to get your tickets. Promo code FYB, which will get you free shipping. And if you're going to the U.S. Open, they're putting on some cocktail parties. You can come hang out with us.
Absolutely.
Also, we've been releasing some strategy videos. We've got 2 of them up. Well, this is actually 4. We've got 2 of them up. So far, we're going to have another one coming out tomorrow.
Yep.
The first one talked about directionals, Paul Wardlaw's term for high percentage and low percentage tennis. The next one was about court positioning, where you want to stand on the court. Tomorrow is going to be something called SWOT. We'll preview that towards the end of this webcast on the dry erase. But that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and it talks about how you construct a game around what you're good at and how you match up with. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
That's key. A lot of the questions that we've been getting on the first 2 videos are actually SWOT questions. People just don't know it yet.
Yep.
So I think when we get to that, you'll really appreciate it, and that should really give you a pretty firm understanding of that first leg of strategy there.
Yeah, and it's something that SWOT stuff is something you see the pros implement all the time because the game at that level, the game at all levels, but particularly the pro level, is all about matchups.
Right.
You know, your forehand might be your favorite shot, but against a particular opponent, it might not be smart to try and hit a lot of forehands. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. We'll also be giving away a prize courtesy of Tennis Express.
I've got to think of a good question, I guess. Yeah, $25 gift card.
$25 gift card. And got to be in the chat, so please log into the chat if you want to win that stuff. You just have to enter in some info, and it'll say create an account. So with that in mind, let's, we talked a little bit yesterday about the Isner Mahut match. Let's wrap that one up because they went about another, a little bit more than a set today. I mean, almost 2 sets. They were at 59 all, and then Isner ended up winning it
70 to 68, right?
They're actually replaying it.
Right, it's on TV right now.
Here. But they just started it. But it was
epic.
It was epic. It was interesting because at the if they had kept playing yesterday, who knows how long that match would have gone?
Sure.
Because both guys were so drained that all they could really do was serve well, and even Isner's serve was coming down. In terms of the MPH.
Sure, yeah.
But today they both looked a lot fresher, particularly Mahut, who was ripping some groundies.
Yep.
Hitting some great forehands. So the tennis, I think the level of tennis was a little bit higher today, but I don't know. That doesn't really matter in a way because
they also got a refresh. I mean, being able to sleep for 8 hours probably helps out a lot.
Yeah, obviously, and being in there with your
going to see the trainer. Yeah, exactly.
Getting some food in your stomach, but. The level of tennis didn't really matter in this match because it was all about sort of the heart and the mental toughness. That trend obviously continued today, even with the higher level of tennis. To win it, Isner hit a couple good passing shots when Mahut came to net, and the last one was a backhand down the line.
He had 2 passing shots in a row to win it. Both were very, very good shots, very solid passing shots. One was cross-court. The first one was cross-court to set up match point, and then down the line on Isner's backhand to win the match.
On match point, Mahut served and volleyed to Isner's backhand. Isner hit a really good backhand, I believe. Isner hit a very good
return that dove
cross-court. Mahut had to dig it up. Yep. And it was a pretty routine pass for Isner after a really good look at it, and he executed properly. Interestingly, Isner's return was sort of letting him down the entire match.
I thought both of their returns were letting them down a little bit, which I think is part of the reason why this match went so many games. I mean, granted, they both had huge serves. They were serving incredibly well, but the returns on both ends looked a little deficient.
With Mahut, I wouldn't say the guy it let him down, so to speak. Isner's serve is just so good
Correct.
that it's, Mahut's not the greatest
Particularly
returner in
on
the world.
grass.
Yeah.
It's just that's going to be really, really hard.
The guy, and remember actually, Adam, when we went back, if we go back to that event in Baltimore, the BCF Tennis Classic
Yeah.
with
You want to pull
Pam
up that
Shriver's.
video?
Yeah, I did. I interviewed John Isner. First of all, it's a joke because the guy, I'm 5'8", he's 6'9".
Go ahead
so
and clip over
it
that.
was. Let me hang on. You're not gonna be able to hear this, but you'll just be able to see the height difference. So this is me trying to talk to him, and I barely come up. I don't even come up to his shoulders, basically.
No, you're actually not even at his shoulder.
The guy's a giant, though.
Yeah.
And
his arms are incredibly long. I mean, he really gets up there. His reach is super, super high. So, go to the John Isner versus the Mike and Bob Bryan, because maybe a lot of people haven't seen
it's this one.
haven't seen that serve just yet. 2 minutes and 15 seconds, I believe, into this video. You get a very good look at exactly what Isner's serve looks like from a little higher up. This is John McEnroe and John Isner playing the Bryan brothers in an exhibition doubles match. Here you go. And just keep replaying that serve.
I'm playing a second hole, and the Bryans.
And yeah, the Bryans,
up
of
here
course.
making fun of it. That's basically.
They are hamming it up.
That's basically, an accurate representation.
I mean, take a look at that serve. It literally, that's a flat serve that hits the ground before it is halfway through the service box. And that serve is probably going 130 miles an hour easily.
So
and look
right
at where
there.
Bob Bryan makes contact. If you can pause it at his contact point, it's above his head. It bounces above his...
Yeah, it's up. He's up around there. I'm a little past contact. Well, I'm having a little bit of trouble controlling. That's actually a pretty ambitious return position. He's right up on the baseline to return this serve.
It is.
But obviously with doubles, it's harder to grind it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Pretty amazing though.
His serve. I mean, it's hard to sort of fathom how difficult it is to return that shot. I mean, when Isner first came up at the Legg Mason, that was basically, I think that might have been, I don't know if that was the first pro tournament he played, but it was one of the first, and he made it to the final, lost to Roddick. But the guy...
Getting there through, I believe, every single match, virtually every single set went to a tiebreaker that he served his way out of.
He won a bunch of 3-set matches. I mean, he beat Monfils in 3. Actually broke when Monfils was serving for the match in the 3rd.
Yeah.
I think he beat Tommy Haas in 3. And Haas was on the court sort of doing one of these because, trying to return Isner's serve, which was landing halfway down the service box, 130 miles an hour off the court.
I think then the next time we saw him might have been at the U.S. Open, where he took a set off of Federer and then didn't hear much from him until, I guess, now. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing some stuff here and there. He's obviously moved up in the rankings. He's now, number 17 in the world?
Yeah, and he beat Roddick at last year's U.S. Open in the 3rd round in the 5th set breaker. It's a good thing they have a tiebreaker. That match could have gone, 70 games as well if you get Roddick and Isner serving, two guys who aren't the best returners. But yeah, that was a heck of a match. Heck of a match today. I feel really sorry for Mahut, who had to, it was unbelievably gracious of him to sit through that ceremony afterwards. It's got to be so tough, having lost an epic match like that, and you're already so drained and down, and then you're asked to
so there's
stand and take pictures.
That must have been tough. There is a poll going on right now, and while we talk through this a little bit more, answer the poll. The question is, do you think John Isner can be a top 10 talent? Not that he necessarily is now, but can he be a top 10 talent if he matures a little bit more as a player? And what were...
well, I think...
right, so going back to Mahut and having to deal with that, Isner...
Bring up the computer screen, too. We'll talk to the stats in a second.
Isner said yesterday, and he reiterated again today, that someone had to lose this match. In his words, and
highlighting some of the
obviously, both of these guys were hoping that it would not be them that would lose, but it was obviously heartbreaking for Mahut, who just sat there buried in his towel after.
These are the aces here: 103 aces and 112.
That's just insane. I mean,
look at this first serve percentage over
the course of
300,
400, almost 500 serves.
491 serves. My arm would fall off.
Then again, how can you miss when you're 6'10"?
That's true.
So
Very interesting here. Total points won go to 478. I mean, normally you have a differential.
So
of
Isner
24
actually
points.
he lost
He was
more,
negative, get
right.
24.
but he won the match.
Yeah. Normally you would expect someone to lose if you're at a negative differential. So that's an interesting.
Now look at the other interesting stat, though. Is Isner averaged
Mahut had 3 break chances.
right down at the serve speed. I mean, Isner pounded a couple serves, 150 miles an hour is his top serve speed, but that average number is actually what really impresses me because that average takes into account playing for like 6 straight hours, and he was maintaining an average speed of 123 miles an hour.
The second serve is
right. I mean, he was going for some big second serves too, particularly the middle day of the match.
Yeah, when he was in a pressure situation.
Yeah.
These numbers are probably depressed a little bit because Isner started to get tired late in the.
Well, that's why. Yeah, that's why I was
okay,
saying that's why the average is so impressive. So certainly an epic match all around, I think.
Yeah. So with that, I guess with that one in mind, I don't know if there's too much more we want to add there.
I think that covers it.
Let's briefly touch on Rafael Nadal versus Robin Haase, because Rafa was pushed to 5, and didn't say necessarily the top of his. Haase played well, and in the first set, he had that great point to break, hit a really strong return, and then closed and hit kind of a jumping forehand, if memory serves correctly, to win that. You
want to clip back over to the computer there and take a look at that score line?
Here we go. Rafa and Haase. And there's the score line. And then Rafa kind of ran away with it in the 4th and 5th. Obviously.
He did. He started slow. Came back very strong in the 2nd.
Yep.
Then faltered in the 3rd, and then just plowed in the 4th and 5th.
Haase served pretty well, which was why almost 70% when he's hitting about 120 for first serve.
Yep.
Is going to be tough to get a lot of looks. Although Rafa did a pretty nice. Some of these are skewed by that 4th set here.
Sure.
But Rafa did a nice job of converting break chances. And Haase, he did a great job. Didn't get many looks, but when he did, that was those 2 sets that he won there. Interesting thing about both Rafa and Fed is that neither one of them
has looked particularly strong.
Yeah,
is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Federer, I think, does not look as strong as Nadal. It may, Nadal may have struggled early, but he certainly turned up the heat late in the match.
I also think that the guys they've been playing have stepped up. I mean,
that's true.
They haven't had a guy that's really not come to.
That's very true.
Play.
That the people who have given Fed and Nadal trouble have certainly elevated their game significantly above, I think, what their standings in the world rankings would suggest.
Yeah, that's completely accurate. And if I'm going to say who I think is playing the best right now, I'm probably saying Andy Roddick.
Yeah.
He's dropped a set as well, but has looked pretty strong overall. He's serving really well. And when he was playing Lodra earlier, Lodra was blasting serves and playing great. So I think Roddick's got a real nice shot of advancing pretty deep. Soderling is playing very well, and like we said earlier, he might face Rafa in the quarters, which would be an interesting matchup if Soderling's level stays as high as he's been playing.
Yeah.
Then with the faster surface, it'd be interesting to see how that rematch of the French final plays out, particularly if Rafa doesn't sort of sharpen his game up a little bit. But I thought Rafa got a little bit stronger as the match went on. So lot of sort of intrigue. An interesting match or interesting tournament just on the men's side. A lot of 5-set matches. Tsonga played one today, and won it in extra innings. And it's sort of more sort of drama than in past Wimbledons. A lot going on. We're not even, as Brad Gilbert says, at the business end of the tournament. It's still really early. So we'll see how all this stuff plays out. I feel I want to You should do a poll question. Who do you think is going to win Isner's next match?
So people weren't, you know, I have to go back to those poll results, but people weren't giving Isner a lot of credit there, which I thought was interesting. Is Isner potentially a top 10 talent? 44% of people said yes, and 56% of people said no.
Didn't think so, huh?
Yeah.
He's got to, you know, if he gets his return better, then I think he's got a shot. But it really comes down to he's worked a lot on his movement. He was spending a lot of time on his movement at Leg Mason last year when he was when we saw him there. Obviously hard to gauge how hard he's working on stuff at a pro-am, which is where we saw him the very last time. But if he can you know, work on that return and really be aggressive right out of the gate, I think, you know, play the big man tennis that he's talked about.
Yeah.
Then I think he's got a shot.
Biggest thing that he still needs to work on, I think, is his backhand.
Yeah, and if you're going to talk about groundies, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we have another poll running right now. I'm sure popped up on your screen there, but is he going to win his next match?
Yeah, his next match is against DeBacker, who won, what was it, 16-14 in the fifth. So DeBacker's not extremely fresh.
Right.
But,
right.
you know, Isner, you got to think you play, you know, a 5-set match.
That's tough. I mean, I forget the exact statistic, but it was the total number of games that Rafa played to win the French Open was like less than 100, 80-something. And John Isner played 100-something games just in one match.
Really?
Yeah. Anyone have that stat? Like if they know off the top of their head the total number of games Rafa played to win the French Open entirety, from first round to winning the final.
Yeah, I haven't seen that stat. That'd be incredible if that was true.
Yeah.
So let's quickly shift gears and talk about, you know, we haven't talked too much about the women's side of the tournament. Are you?
Yeah, I misspoke. I said 100 and I meant 200, but Rafa was apparently around 200 games or something to do the entire French Open.
Okay, and then how many did Isner then play? 180, they said?
Yeah, something like that. I'll have to go back and add up all these numbers, but that's just an interesting statistic to know how many games it's going to take Isner if he does go all the way. Which,
what did the poll results say?
The poll results were saying that, I believe they said yes. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, 59% of people said that yes, Isner will win his next match against DeBacker.
That'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Interesting one to watch. Well, let's clip over to the computer.
Shift gears to women's.
Yeah, you know, this, we haven't talked too much about it, but there haven't been any huge, you know, we had Stosur and Schiavone losing early, but there hasn't been too much intrigue otherwise. Wozniacki won today. Sharapova won, and she's been playing well. If you look at her stat line, the stat that really stood out to me was this one right here, the first serve. If she's able to serve at a high first serve percentage, I think she's got a real good shot of doing some damage.
That's a high first serve percentage for her.
Yeah, well,
she's traditionally struggled with her serve lately.
So I'm pulling up her draw. Oh, here it is. This is because you got Serena Williams up here, who's been characteristically steamrolling people.
Yeah, sure.
But in a couple rounds, or next round, assuming they both get through, you'd have Serena and
that'll be fun.
Sharapova, a rematch of the Wimbledon final a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting match to see if Sharapova's level stays as high. Is it?
Na Li in that draw as well. She had some recent success. Other names.
At Aussie Open, I believe.
Radwanska's in there. Wozniacki.
Well, I think Wozniacki and Azarenka, who are apparently pretty good friends. I mean, that could be a next round matchup too. So I think, you know, while there hasn't been too much going on the women's side yet, I think in a round or two we're going to get some interesting matchups, and you know, maybe some cool matches there. I don't know, you know, it'll be just generally from a broader perspective, having had this epic match with Isner and Mahut. I wonder if the rest of the tournament is going to be able to live
a little
up
bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, if we get a Federer
Nadal final,
or
that'd be pretty amazing.
Roddick,
yeah, Federer Roddick final.
I think
semi. Yeah.
Sharapova, Serena could be great. You could have Serena Venus in the final, so certainly a lot.
Yep.
a lot of ways this could come together.
Of course, we were predicting a lot of finals for the French Open too, and then that kind of fell apart. Although obviously Rafa made it as expected.
Yes,
but the other half of the draw kind of went totally unexpectedly.
Yeah, I mean, absent of Federer making it through, I wasn't particularly surprised that it was Soderling, because he obviously had success last year.
Yeah.
Do you have a question queued up or for?
I'm close to one here. Give me 2 minutes or so, and I'll have something.
Okay, we're gonna ask a question in a second. Give away a $25 gift card in the chat. If you guys have any questions you want to ask me, while Adam pulls that up, we'll do the quiz, and then we'll the giveaway, and then we'll preview this SWOT stuff. Yeah, there's a question. Do I think, seeing how all the men are playing, do I think Federer can take the world #1 spot back anytime soon? It's going to be tough for him to overcome Rafa. Just the point system works. Rafa had no points here at Wimbledon, and the boys got a lot more. So Federer had a lot of points to defend,
right?
And Rafa can gain a lot of points. And now that he's already ahead of Federer, he's only going to get more points. It's hard for him to fall back. So there's a very good chance that Rafa's gonna end the tournament the tournament in the year #1 in the world. Everybody's predicting Chris Evert is the answer.
Chris Evert is not the answer today. Believe it or not, is maybe easy for people because we've been talking about long matches. But the question is,
$25 gift card, Tennis Express.
In the 2003 Australian Open, Andy Roddick defeated Anyawi. Am I pronouncing that? Elanawi, yeah. And that was the longest set longest fifth set at that point in tennis history. So what was the game score of that fifth set?
Wait for it. I think people are going to get this one pretty quick. All right, yeah,
Indeed.
Orange got it.
Wow, someone knew. All right. Orange eater right off the bat.
Right.
People have deep memories. It's pretty impressive.
Or quick Google skills.
Or very quick Google skills, right? Let me Google that for you. Okay. I'll make a more challenging one for tomorrow. Someone was complaining earlier in the chat that the questions were too challenging.
Too hard. Well, that's because
they wanted an easy one.
A couple guys fired out answers real quick on some easy ones during the French Open, so we had to make it a little bit more difficult. Orange Eater, I just private messaged you with sort of directions on what to do.
You know what? I'm going to make it relatively easy for you guys. Tomorrow's question is also going to be about Andy Roddick. So buff up on your Andy Roddick knowledge if you'd like.
Now people are saying make the questions harder.
And
keep it difficult.
And we will see how much knowledge you guys can accumulate overnight on Andy Roddick.
Maybe we'll do a difficult one and an easy one or something.
We could do 2.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So we got about 5 minutes left here. Do you want to go to the whiteboard and talk about some of the strategy stuff?
Yeah. We can just preview it quickly because we've got the like we said at the top of the show, the 2 previous videos talked about directionals and court positioning. So you had inside, outside ground strokes, and you had where to position yourself on the court. So you have those 3 court positioning X's, which we boiled this stuff down to, and then say, well, whatever, I don't need to write inside and outside ground strokes. But what we're going to talk about in our strategy video tomorrow is something called SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this stuff here deals with you. What are you good at? What are you bad at, for example, or what not necessarily is a weakness, but what is your not the stronger side. And then the opportunities and the threats are essentially the same thing for your opponent. The opportunities are where can you exploit your opponent, and the threats are what is your opponent really good at. Does he have a big forehand? Does he move well? And so on. And this stuff is important to understand because if we take a step back, one of the questions we got after the directionals video is, when should I change direction of the ball? If I get a short outside ground stroke, I'm allowed to change direction. If I get an inside ground stroke, I can change direction. What should I do with it? Where do I go? And the answer depends heavily on this stuff, because if your opponent has a really strong forehand and you're in a backhand to backhand rally, you might not want to change direction when you get that opportunity and go to the forehand. Or if he has a weak forehand, maybe you do want to go at it. And that stuff seems a little bit self-evident, but it gets much more complicated when you're sort of weighing all these factors. And you'll see this stuff in, first of all, you'll see this stuff in play at the pro level, and how matchups really dictate the outcome of a match. We're going to talk about Rafael Nadal and how Federer and how Del Potro match up against Rafa, because I think we can all agree Federer is a better player than Del Potro, but Del Potro has had more recent success against Rafa than Federer has, and that's because of these concepts right here. So if we can start thinking about, if we can start sort of higher level thinking here when we approach a tennis match, that's real important, particularly from the rec level, because most rec players don't put too much thought into a match out there, and they say, I like my forehand shot, I'm going to hit a lot, and they think about how the matchup, how their opponent is going to utilize their strengths, is going to exploit their weaknesses, and so on. So if we can wrap our head around this concept here, then we're going to be able to play a much better game. We're going to be able to exploit our opponents, and we're going to win a lot more matches. So real important concept to understand here. If you have any questions about it real quick, we can address in the next couple minutes. Post in the chat. Adam, is there anything you think I should add with that brief description? More sort of sophisticated, we're going to film.
Yeah, I mean, originally, I guess we thought that this entire course was going to run maybe a half hour, but we're already there after 2 videos.
Yeah, so it might be an hour or so.
Which is good.
30 minutes, yeah.
An hour barely scratches the surface of all this stuff.
Yeah,
so.
if you guys haven't seen those videos already, go watch those. The directional, they're hyperlinked below here. You might have to dig back a page. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, we'll have a hyperlink in the description, top of the description, so you can click through and watch those videos. Really, really important stuff to understand. Doesn't look like anybody in the chat has posed a question too. Actually, you know what you should do? Instead of posing it in the chat, why don't you watch those videos and comment there? Yeah. Because we'll go through all those comments and incorporate the questions into the video we film tomorrow. We did that with the court positioning video.
Yep.
We went through, and someone is saying my hat is the wrong way. How about now? Is it better?
Wow. Just wow.
All right. Well, with that highbrow note, or on that highbrow note, unless we have anything else to...
I think that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, any parting shots in the chat, guys, if there's a quick question you want to ask.
What do you think of the fact that there are no newcomers? You want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would 100% agree with that. You have Melanie Udan.
Yep, she's had some success.
You've had, you've got someone like Cilic, who I don't think he's 21 yet.
Yep.
So there's definitely some good talent in there. I will say, I think there have been some guys that have kind of been late bloomers. You look at someone like Soderling, who was 24, I believe, when he beat Rafa last year and sort of burst onto the scene.
Right.
That's really late.
Yeah, it is.
That's a late blooming age for a tennis player. McEnroe, for example, I don't believe won a major after he was 24. Right. Maybe 25.
Yeah.
Normally, you hit 25, and that's sort of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some clear examples where that's not the case, but there are some guys that are having success sort of later on in their careers.
Yeah.
There's a question about the World Cup. Yes, we are absolutely watching that. The webcast
T-Rex.
on
T-Rex or Velociraptor?
That is a tough one. I think you got to go T-Rex.
I disagree. The T-Rex has the arms that look like this. Like, I just don't understand how you can think that that's menacing.
Well, I can see from a tech guy's perspective, it'd be difficult to type like that, so you wouldn't,
It's true.
Want to
T-Rex arms.
A T-Rex would not be a good IT guy. So I get that.
All right, wait. Let's do a poll. We'll do a poll.
I think, Jurassic Park, before Jurassic Park the movie, I don't think anybody was going to say Velociraptor. And Jurassic Park really put Velociraptor on the map. So
that's true.
I'm going to go back to my roots. When I was a little kid, I wanted to grow up and be a T-Rex. And then a couple weeks ago, my parents said, "Will, you got to stop pretending to be a T-Rex. It's time to move on with your life." So finally got over it.
Yeah. So,
Right.
yeah.
Did you actually make that a poll question?
That is actually a poll question. Of course, no one is, oh, there we go. Now some responses are coming in. Well, 100% of people are saying Raptor. So.
Really? There's only 2 people have voted. Oh, there we go.
All right, whatever. Someone had to go and
Oh,
skew.
see, now it's just updating late. Everybody's on T-Rex.
This is like now a contest between you and me.
I know, I'm skewing the results. That's perfect.
Vote for Adam.
You know, T-Rexes are better tennis players. They're taller, so they can serve like Isner.
But the Velociraptors are so fast.
They just bounce
They'd be
over
like
their head, though.
they'd be like Michael Chang. They'd be like a backboard. You just can't win.
Doesn't matter. They bounce over their head. The Velociraptor never even gets a racket on the ball.
All right.
All right. Well, with that in mind,
Possibly the silliest discussion we have had so far on a webcast.
yeah, there was to go back about the World Cup on Saturday. I believe we're starting at noon. So because the U.S. is playing later in the day, so we're gonna be watching that.
Yeah.
And that's not gonna make the webcast possible at the later hour. The good thing about the noon start time is that matches will actually be going on.
Yeah.
Sort of talk about the match.
Absolutely.
Similar to what we do for the final. Nick, you are right. Raptors do understand FYB strategy lessons. That is a disadvantage. All right. Well.
All right.
We're gonna. This is degenerating quickly, so we're gonna wrap this up.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Tomorrow is Friday, 5 p.m. Saturday we will see you at noon.
Yep.
So.
Saturday's noon. Tomorrow 5.
All right.
All right,
Take it easy,
cool,
guys.